And we are live. Welcome to Shifting Lanes Garage. Shifting Lanes on Facebook if you're watching there. Shifting Lanes Garage if you are in the YouTube sphere. I'm Chad. That's Greg. And welcome to your weekly dose of automotive chit chat that, let's face it, should be, you should get college credit for watching.
I agree.
We are highly educational, entertaining.
Educational?
Something.
Is that a word? Can we make that a word?
Something like that. Greg, how you doing, buddy?
I am good. I am very excited to chat with everyone tonight, especially you, my friend, as well as our famous supporters that carry the stream in the comments all the time.
Legends.
And I have a surprise for you tonight that I have not previously disclosed.
Fantastic.
Happy accident happened over on the shift posting group this week. Facebook, in its infinite wisdom, decided to give us a chat, literally like an actual chat on shift posting. And I didn't realize it until I looked on my app, and there was a whole section for
I did notice that
chats. And I'm like,
why
I
is
go
this
in
here?
there. I go in there and I look at it, and there's just people going, WTF is this? And I'm like, I don't know. Cool. So I streamed back and I was like, so I guess because I created the group, I'm the headmaster of that chat. So we have a new chat that I'm going to now ping and try to bring into the stream. So
Nice.
We'll see if anyone else shows up.
Oh, that's awesome. Was that the surprise?
That was the surprise. That maybe we'll
Shocking.
get some more random people.
Nice.
So I'm going to ping them now as you, sir, talk about the topics for tonight, because we got two really fantastic things to talk about, both of which sound excellent.
Yes. So both of which are basically awesome news and good news for automotive enthusiasts. The first thing we're going to talk about tonight is going to be arguably what is now my favorite Mark IV Supra build. I'll give a little teaser and say there's not a 2J to be found. And it's got a whole mess of other stuff that it's like a one-of-one type Supra. Like, people have done the swap, people have done this other part to it, but they've never put them together. And it's probably the best Mark IV Supra build I've ever seen. Number two is we're going to talk about Ford. Yes, they just partnered with Red Bull, but more importantly, they are continuing to fly the flag for those of us who like to be propelled not by electrons, but by explosive prehistoric beasts. So technically it won't be that, but explodey liquids is the topic. Synthetic fuels, which is something I know Greg has been talking about a ton.
Yes.
I've recently started digging a little deeper into it. Personally, it's pretty fascinating. And the upshot is we get to continue. Basically, if you replace some parts and you continue driving the cars we all know and love as they sit today, but are basically carbon neutral, which will, shut the sissies up. So those are our first two topics. Our other topics is basically whatever the heck chat wants it to be, within reason. Just got to put that disclaimer in. Especially the YouTube chat can get a little on the crazy side. So yeah, I'm pretty excited about that stuff. And chat, how are you doing today? Ted, welcome to the stream. Yes, Greg is the chat master, the only thing that he's really a master of. Unless he goes fishing, if you kind of put those two together. DC's over on YouTube. How you doing, buddy? We're doing great. We're so happy to have you with us, watching and enjoying. Feel free to chat away regardless of what we're talking about. We're here to hang out first and foremost, but we use the topics to kind of steer the conversation.
That's right.
And then
I'm still trying to share over in the other chat.
Okay. So Greg is the chat master, but not possibly mastered chat.
I guess not. It's not letting me post a link.
Really?
I'm not entirely sure why. I can post messages, but I can't post a link to our own Facebook page and our own group chat. Sweet.
Aren't you the admin?
Yes, I am.
Huh.
I don't know. Facebook, whatever. It's fine. So yeah, so I'm excited to talk about those two things, especially since I cheated a little bit and already listened to the Supra.
Well, I mean, it's hard not to. Let me just put a. Let's just say, if you're a car guy, this is kind of a Christmas present to Greg, because Greg, as I'll get to in a minute, is a big fan of the V12 and engine as a whole. But so he
Yes.
kind of cheated. So
Yeah, pretty much.
sorry about that. Just got to document things from there. So as we just dive right into it, Greg, what in
Yes.
your estimation would be the ideal engine swap for a Mark IV Toyota Supra, discounting what you already know about what we're going to get into, but what would you say would be the best engine, and we're just going to leave the other engine we're talking about out?
Yeah, so the best engine for a Mark IV Supra swap. Ooh, best is a very subjective term in this sense.
If you had a Mark
but-
IV Supra and you didn't
Yeah.
say want a 2J, or let's just say you got one sans engine or what have you, what
Okay.
engine are you putting into it and why?
Well, I can think of three different engines that I would put into it. One of them probably being that's rising to the top just because of how sacrilegious it would be. First and foremost, I would probably put an RB26 in it just because that would be funny to watch every Supra fanboy's mind and face melt as I opened the hood at every car show I went to. I think that would just be very funny and an excellent troll car, but also still a very good car.
It's actually been done.
Those are excellent engines. I know. I just think it should be hilarious. Second would be some form of V8, based on just because maybe because of packaging, maybe an LS would be cool in there, just because LS Mark IV Supras, I haven't seen a lot of them. I know they've done it, but I personally have not seen a lot of them. If there's room, maybe a Coyote, or maybe even some form of other like interesting V8. If you had the potential to build one out, maybe that Yamaha 4.4 liter that they threw in the Volvos, because they also use those for Aussie supercar racing. So very cool engine, pretty stout engine. So that would be pretty interesting. Or maybe even like a V8 Vantage kind of engine, like an Aston or an AJ block kind of thing, maybe from Jag. And lastly, probably a V10, maybe something out of like an Audi R8 or a Lamborghini. Those would also be pretty interesting to do. Personally, I'd do the RB26 just because they sound cool, and again, it would just be a great sort of troll car to be like, oh yeah, man, let me see the 2JZ, and it's an RB26, and everyone freaks out.
No, I'm pretty close to there with you. I would some form of American V8, because like, let's face it, guys are having a lot of fun. I've seen 2Js in Mustangs. I've seen 2Js in Corvettes. I've seen 2Js.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to slap a 2J into everything.
Everything.
I think it would be funny to go the opposite route. Now, I know the LS Supra has been done.
K-swap.
Yeah. Just to really
Where's Alan?
yeah, right. Steve says put an EJ in there. Just, legendary Toyota reliability, and then head gaskets on the garage floor. But I'd probably go the V8 route. I think a Coyote would be epic. Problem with the Coyote and everything is making it fit would be interesting. Then I would go something like an LS. I think a Hellcat would just be hilarious. Just, again, because
That would be ridiculous.
it's just blatantly just bludgeoning over the death with Americanness. If I was to kind of keep it in the family, a 1UZ VVTi would be really, really cool.
That'd be cool.
Because they did actually so here's the thing with the Mark IV. When they raced them in the Japanese touring car series, At no point did they ever race them with a 6-cylinder.
Right. They've always had V8.
Originally, they were, I think, either a 3S GTE or a 4A GTE or 4S GTE. I can't remember off the top of my head, but originally it was a 4-cylinder. And then after that, they went to a 4-liter V8 that I don't know how much it shared with the 1UZ as far as that, but it was a V8. So I would probably go those routes. However,
Interesting.
one of the engines...
We found something better than all of that.
Yes, one of the engines that have kind of been rising to the top of things I would like to play with, and unfortunately, it's not a VR6, is the 1G...
Hello, Andrew.
The 1GZ FE. And to those of you who don't know what that is, I'll put a picture of it actually in the Supra up right now. That is a 1GZ FE. If you count the intake runners, you'll notice there is 12 of them. It is Toyota's V12. They are kind of interesting engines, but in their stock form, they're just basically, it's that mindset of a 6-cylinder is inherently very smooth. A V12 is inherently very, very smooth just because of the firing order and the pulses and everything like that.
Yeah.
So this
same thing with like the S class with the V12s.
Exactly. It's why Rolls goes 12, sometimes 16 cylinders in their vehicles. So it was just in the Toyota Century, which is kind of like it was a luxury. It was, think Toyota Avalon, but just more of it's what the bosses of Toyota were driven around in. It was just a very smooth engine for luxury cars. So as in most things, people started picking them up and like, well, it's 5 liters. And before anyone asks, no, it is not 5 liters because it's 2 1Js bolted to, put in a V configuration. It is actually completely different from a design perspective, other than just the overall displacement per bank. The interesting thing about it is that it had 2 ECUs running each bank that worked in conjunction with each other. So you could legitimately, it wasn't advisable. It's not like today's engines where you can turn cylinders off. But in theory, one bank would continuously run if the other ECU failed. It was just the tech. They were limited by the tech of the day. And yes, as Andrew said, this is strong pornography. Gold plating and a red interior with... I love I'm pretty sure this guy left no pie cuts in whatever state he was when he built this. Everything is everything.
The
intake,
the piping work is absolutely glorious. It's gorgeous.
Yeah, it's a beautiful engine bay. And we'll notice that we strapped 2 turbos on it because these engines, again, there's not really a huge...
Why not?
There's not really a huge aftermarket for them. So I know one guy built one of these with ITBs, got like 500-ish wheel horsepower out of it, a glorious noise. But this makes an even better noise, and it has turbos. So I think the fair thing to do is to just close this window and just move on to it. No, I'm just screwing with you guys. It's idle. This is actually the tuning session.
Yeah.
I love that pink color too, by the way.
Do we need to mute me so they can hear?
So yeah, that is epic sounding. Greg, you're unmuted. That has
excellent.
So these engines don't have that like high. I don't know what the word is. That instantly recognizable V12 sound.
Yeah.
Hold on, we just missed another poll. That's just a base tuned 700 horsepower. Yeah, you guys. That, that is one of the that is the best sounding Supra that has ever existed, and I think an unmuted Greg will agree.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome.
I mean, and it has that F1 pitch at the very top end of it that like you don't like. Sometimes you get the V12s and it sounds very reminiscent of a very good straight six, just in harmony. But that has that
it's
peaky 12.
it's pretty nuts. It's pretty nuts. Like it is. It's probably one of the better. It's probably one of the better sounding swaps I've ever heard, honestly. Because when you put turbos on anything, you're gonna mute it. It's just the way it works. But in this case, you still get a ton of the V12 howl, which is really glorious. And it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, give me money. I'll do that. Like, you don't need to convince me any more than one of those sound clips.
Yes.
What I'm interested in is, is that a stock look? Is that can't be a stock body on that. It looks like the rear quarters are definitely wide body-ish.
No, that's not a stock bodied car.
I didn't think so.
Let's see here. I mean, I forget the kit. Check my notes. Nope, they just talk about the engine.
Yeah, there you go.
Let's just mute this for a moment. But like the fenders are, I'm pretty sure it's all Supra except for like the undercarriage. Might have over fenders that have been blended. But since we're here again, we're just going to give the people what they want. And so that is just... So what this thing actually ended up making on the dyno was just shy of 1,000 horsepower. It was 946 and 817 pound-feet of torque at the rear hubs, which is basically a slightly more accurate, a more accurate way of dynoing. It's also very good for shops because it's modular and things like that. But yeah, obviously to make this power, gnarly. Custom pistons, custom connecting rods, custom one-off. Although I do believe that some people are starting to make aftermarket engine components for this because it is coming up in popularity. One of the guys from Top Secret actually did this build initially. And this guy is just sort of...
Smokey?
I think so.
Smokey Nagata, yeah.
He did that swap initially, and literally everything had to be custom. But as these engines, like, because, let's face it, everybody went to the 2J because it was cheap. Everybody then went to the 1J because the 2J was getting too expensive. Now that both of those are climbing in price, this thing has kind of become the new, what can we do with it sort of plaything.
Yeah.
And I never mentioned the craziest part of this build.
I'm echoing, apparently.
Damn it, too much Greg.
Never enough me.
Doug has entered the chat and his usual audio corrections. We're just going to start calling you the sound mixer.
Justin is also here. Welcome, Justin.
Thank you. The craziest thing about this Supra, and yes, I understand it has a twin turbo V12 that makes well over 1,000 horsepower at the crank. It has,
which isn't the craziest part, apparently.
Nope. For my money, the craziest thing is, and this kind of piggybacks on what you were saying earlier about what engine you'd put in it. You would put an RB26 in it because it would mess with people. If you really wanted to mess with people, you do an RB30 with RB26 heads, but I digress. The craziest thing about this car is that it has a Tessa, a.k.a. all-wheel drive.
Yeah, basically 1,000 horsepower Supra all-wheel drive. That's pretty bananas, gotta be honest.
I mean, that is insane. And to those of you
Yeah.
eagle-eyed viewers who said, but the hubs were only hooked up to the rear wheels. Well, in a Tesla, you can actually turn off the front.
Yep.
So it can be just a rear-wheel drive vehicle. But, yeah, Justin,
Pretty nuts.
yeah, I mean, Greg will tell you this. I have wanted to play around with the 1GZ for a while. I believe I even said, hey, why don't we put this in my IS300? Back when the IS300
Oh, yeah, you definitely said
was
that.
the project. So this, I mean, I'm going to do, just do this. Like, that engine is so cool because of what it represents. It's affordable, and it's a V freaking 12.
Yeah.
And just in case you were wondering, nope, why is it bringing me that? Because I can't type, apparently. GZ. There we go. But, like, the crazy thing about these engines is they're like $4,000 to $5,000 for like halfway decent miles on them.
That's not bad at all, quite frankly.
It's absolutely nuts. I mean, when you consider that well sorted, like, for example, that's right in the ballpark with a relatively well sorted medium mileage 1J, right? Now, admittedly, the 1J will be easier to get bigger power out of and easier to put in and all this other sort of stuff if you're doing an IS300, SC300, Mark IV Supra, Mark III Supra, anything, right? It just has a stronger aftermarket. But you'll be boring.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I was really hoping that one of your 245 projects didn't have an engine, so we could put one of these in.
I mean, they don't have to. We could sell them.
I'm just saying, even if we start out with just getting the V12 to work, that's still over 300 horsepower.
Probably, yeah.
You know.
Could you imagine a V12 245?
I mean,
talk about melting brains.
Yes. I mean, if we could figure out a way to do that and I would absolutely throw the full might of our respective. So, without getting too into the minutia of it, Greg and I each have our own car budget that we do our builds off of. So, like, I have the Mustang budget, Greg has the 245. The Mustang doesn't take away from the 245s or vice versa.
Right. Right. So, like, yeah, Shifting Lanes works as, like, there's the two of us and then Hanson, obviously. We have our 2 YouTube channels. We have all of our social media accounts, and all of those make money in various ways through Reels, through this live stream for you guys supporting us, sending stars. That helps us make more content, through views on YouTube, obviously. Like, you know, we haven't really dove into sponsorships yet, but we're going to this year. So that'll bring more revenue to help us do these things. So, like, this all sort of adds up to like a monthly budget, and it varies every month because, you know, ad revenue is better in the fourth quarter than it is in like the first quarter of the year because that's how business works. You know, all the ad budgets are sort of all over the place in the first quarter. So you get all this money, and then we basically just take out business expenses and then divide it by 3. It's easy, it's clean, and it's an even keel for an even, you know, part of the business. So what we would do is then use that money to however we want. Chad gets his money to then utilize for the Mustang. I get mine to utilize for the 245. And Hanson gets he's socking his away to maybe move into a different house with a garage. His house doesn't have a garage currently, or maybe even save up for something, you know, really, really that he's wanted forever, like a C8 Corvette, or he's also had a very recent panache for wide body Challengers, which are also badass. So this is how we sort of like split it out and utilize it at Shifting Lanes. So like all the reels we make, all the videos we make, all the live streams we do, it all sort of adds up to give us a budget to make better content for you guys, essentially.
Right. So when I sit here and I say that I'm imagining that the Blurple 245 will stay a faithful representation to the Volvo brand, right? It'll always have a Volvo engine. It'll always have Volvo stuff,
Yeah.
um, and that sort of a thing. Doug has donated 100 stars for an AMC build. I actually
I
just
will.
saw, what is it?
I will gladly refund you your 100 stars just because I don't want to do an AMC build.
I just watched a video the other night on Off the Ranch, and this is probably from a year or so ago, so it's not going to be recent in his videos. But the guy bought an AMC, I think it was a Rebel,
Hmm.
and the owner had made it mid-engine.
Oh
And
my god.
so, like, legitimately, where the driver sits is taken up half, like, by a bank of 8 cylinders, and where the passenger, so you're literally sitting in the back seat, and like Cletus got into it and didn't really fit. It was
Well, Cletus is
insane.
like 6'4", so of course he didn't fit.
But I looked at that and I thought the body style is actually pretty cool. So not, it's probably not going to be recent because there's a lot. There's a
Yeah.
lot to do in the Mustang, if I'm being perfectly honest. And the Mustang build might get delayed by a few months while I do a Goodwill build. Nothing set in stone, but at some point, I might be able to share that with you guys, hoping I can make that happen. But let me put it to you this way: if, let's just say, I pause the Mustang, do this Goodwill build, there's some space at the end for me to sit here and say, "Hey, Greg, let's get a 1GZ,"
Right.
and figure out the costs involved with putting it in. We are not, something like that, because honestly, I believe that would be an epic build. Both, it would be a insanely cool car. That it's an insanely cool engine. That engine gives us room to grow, especially if we do like a standalone ECU and stuff, to where a V12 Volvo. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I would click that video link.
Yeah, me too.
So it gives us a lot of. It's not just like, hey, Greg, here's a V12, right? Which I'm sure you
Right.
would enjoy.
Yes.
It's not
Yes.
just, hey, here's a really cool car. And like I love one of the things I love about Greg with the Polestar is it's like or the V70R or anything. It was a playmate,
Right.
right? I have the Mustang and I have somebody who wants to go out and have a lot of fun with it. So I would absolutely be on board with that. Chad, if you want to make that happen soon, few 100,000 stars should help. And
Which, by the way, thank you, Doug and Justin, for the stars. Appreciate
yes,
it.
Justin.
Also,
Justin wants
probably
some.
still not doing a Rambler build, Doug. Apologies, but we're not going to do that.
But Justin wants the V12 in a 245. So, um,
Yeah,
yeah,
I mean,
because
I
those,
would if we can make it work. I would be very interested in doing that.
and like I said, it doesn't even have to be boosted to like build the bottom end. Because frankly, some of the coolest content was when Cletus was like, "Yeah, this is stock motor. Let's see what it'll handle." And you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, um,
Plus, I mean, look, it's a V12. Putting the right exhaust on it,
yeah,
you don't really need to do anything to it.
long tubes, free the
Hmm.
intakes up a little bit, put it again on uh, a good ECU. Get rid of the dual ECU setup, because that's
Hmm.
when something goes wrong with that, it's bad,
Hmm.
very very bad. Um, so yeah, I
Yeah.
mean that's something could be pretty dang epic, and it's definitely
Yeah.
something I would be excited for with Greg. Over on the YouTube side of things, as we sort of migrate here.
Hmm.
Jonathan Palante asks, just curious, any more C30 content coming again? You were extremely helpful with my build on it. No C30 stuff planned. Unfortunately, that vehicle is sold. However, Jonathan, if you're still in chat over on YouTube, you can always DM me on Instagram. I'll post my handle over on Instagram in chat, and you can always DM me and ask me questions. I know more than most, but not. I'm by no means an expert, if that makes sense. But I did learn from the legend that was Rich Forsyth. So I have you know, I know when to ask or what to ask and things like that. So, John, yeah, shoot me a message. I'll be happy to help you out with anything as you go for the build. And then, like I said, if I can't answer the question or I'm not sure, I could absolutely get you in touch with the right people.
Justin, thank you again for the stars as well. For a second gen Tacoma with a V12 and long tubes. That would be absolutely nuts. I mean, a 245 is cool, but a truck with a V12, that might be cooler. And it's coming from a very big Volvo person, so that might be even cooler.
If you want to see that style, Skid Factory did a FJ with with that engine in it. So if you don't want to wait for us to find the budget, someone did it. DC over in YouTube said, "Hey, I met Greg last year at the Carlisle Import Show." Greg, good job, good networking.
Thank you.
He was.
What's your name? Is it Andrew? Because I remember parking next to Andrew, but I don't remember anyone else I was parked next to because I was parked next to a bunch of people. So please let me know your name. DC does not give me a clue just because I'm horrible with names, and I'm sorry if I've forgotten yours. It is literally nothing to do with you. I'm actually legitimate dog shit at names. Hands down. I'm just really bad at it. In college, I've always, and Chad knows this because he's been with me at college. He didn't go to my college, but he's been with me at Penn State for a lot of the drunken adventures we had. I was better remembering names totally wasted than I was sober. And Chad can absolutely vouch for me on that. What?
I said on juice.
Yes, on juice. Yes. When I was drunk on cranberries.
And Wingstop.
Oh God, Wingstop. Just so remember me that picture of me in Keith's apartment with just wings smattered all over my face.
I need to find that. I need to find where that picture went.
Oh, I still have it. It's on my Facebook. Just go to the first images of my Facebook. Like scroll all the way down. It's there. I'm tagged.
All right, Greg. Be entertaining for completely opposite reasons.
And not you finding the picture of me eating wings. And I'm fairly certain a wooden trucker hat and hemp necklace.
Yeah.
I think that's exactly what I was wearing in that picture. Because I remember it, because it's very funny. Let's see.
Oh my God.
What else?
You were such a dad.
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, it's all kids now. No one cares about me.
Oh my God.
My kids are way more important / interesting.
The funny thing is I'm just like scrolling through and like remembering like the smattering of people we sort of like met along the way back in the Parsippany House days.
Yeah, it's true. We've met a lot of people along the way.
Yeah. Scrolling. Still scrolling.
Still trying. Oh yeah, it's gonna be a while. I have a lot of pictures on there.
Oh my God. It's not the picture.
Did you find it?
It's not the picture in question, but why is this not your Instagram handle photo?
So funny story about that picture. My neighbor was doing like a photography course or was studying to be a photographer or whatever. And she's like, "Can I borrow you for a photo shoot?" I'm just like, "Are you serious? I am not attractive at all. Do you want to really do this?" So she's like, yeah. So she got all of us to do it. It was Keith, myself, and then our roommates Brian and Scott. So we all went over and did these pictures just against like the white wall in the apartment. She's like, "All right, do this for me. She's like, "All right, grab your hat and do this, and then look at the camera." It's like, this is so awkward. This is so weird. But yeah, just zoom in on that.
All right, Jack, your homework assignment. Screenshot this and best meme. I'll come up with a prize.
Oh yeah, I agree. Best meme gets $10. I
Meme
agree.
Greg.
Oh wait, but wait, did you see the caption I put there? It was
Yeah,
just the
God, I'm hot.
sarcastic. God, I'm hot.
Um,
Uh,
oh,
oh, Andrew, it is you. Welcome. Thanks, buddy. I do remember you. You had the tannish gold S80 executive that you parked next to me. That's an awesome car. I hope it's doing well, and I hope to see you again at Carlisle this year. I'll be back there again. And I saw you commented earlier about going to the FCP Euro meet. Definitely get up there. I went up there for the last one of the season last year. It was really, really good, and I'm hoping they do all of those again, and that they can do another Volvo one where we can actually go park on the track at Lime Rock, which would be really cool. Steve just responds to that picture moist. One, yuck,
nice.
because moist is the worst word in the entirety of the English language. Blech, moist. Blech. Gross.
Oh wait, these are
And
I think
also, yes, you should be because God, I'm hot.
Greg's photos.
Oh man, yuck city.
I will find this. So chat.
Are you still looking for
While we're waiting for me to find this, go back, look at the
Oh.
picture, and we're gonna play. How many would it take?
Well, for almost every woman at Penn State, it was not enough. So I actually have an interesting. Well, you try to find that. Try to find that image. And Chad, you can answer this too when you are done trying to find that hilarious image. Greg looks like the lost member from New Kids on the Block. That is definitely a New Kids on the Block photo for sure. Andrew goes, if you had the alto sax in that pic with me looking like that, waterfall. Oh man, I still have that sax in my closet at my parents' house. It's still chilling there. So when the boys start to get into my boys start to get into music, I'll bust it out, see if they really want to hear me play or be interested in playing that. I have guitars here that I want them to get into first before that though. Andrew just goes, I'd really like to meet Chad. No, you don't. Chad sucks. Don't want to meet Chad. He's terrible. Don't ever meet Chad. Can confirm. He's the worst.
The plan is.
But anyway,
the plan is for me right now to be at Carlisle. So if you're going to Carlisle this year, just
yes.
find the loudest Mustang in the place, and you're more than likely going to get pretty darn close to where I'm at.
Yeah. Oh, if that same GT500 is there this year, you will not be the loudest Mustang in the place by a considerable
Have you been
margin.
near
That
my
thing was-
Mustang at full chat?
Yes, I have. The one at Carlisle, I actually had to plug my ears. It was that loud, and that was from about 100 yards away. It was a GT500, but I would imagine it was straight piped.
Okay.
It was like obnoxiously loud. It sounded really good, but it was unbelievably loud. One of the loudest cars I've ever heard.
Okay, so unfortunately for chat and myself, that wing photo I could not locate. So that'll be my homework assignment for the week.
Oh no, that's lame.
Facebook probably took it down.
Probably for being too sexy.
But I feel like in the interest of... Actually, you were about to ask something. While you do that, I'm going to find something that is in the interest of balance.
All right. So my question is this. Since we're talking about engine swaps, and this could be another topic, what... Actually, and this isn't a swap question. It's more of just like we're talking about interesting engines. If you were to go out and buy a car with a V8 that isn't a traditional V8, so no LSs, no Coyotes, nothing like that. If you're going to go out and buy a car with a V8 from the last 20 years, which is a pretty big berth, so we're talking 2003 and up. So we'll go like 2000, so like 2000 and newer, right? So turn of the century cars and newer. If you're going to go out and buy a car with a V8 that's not an LS and not a Coyote, what would you buy and why? Because I find it very interesting to hear people's answers to this question because you have a bunch from BMW. You have the M5, you have the V8 M3, even a couple of the regular V8s from the early 2000s made it into like the 540i. And then you have the newer ones like the twin turbo V8s and like the X5M. You have a bunch from Lexus and Toyota. There's one from Volvo that's the 4.4 liter Yamaha engine. There's Audi. So there's a lot of different offerings. The Mercedes obviously has a V8 in there. Dodge with Hemis. I wouldn't even consider Dodge like a traditional V8 because here in the US, it's like LS, Coyote, Hemi. Those are like the three big V8s that always people have, right? So outside of domestics, I guess you could say, international V8s, what would you choose? And not just what you would choose, but what would you choose and why? So I want like an explanation to it. And Chad, I guess we'll get to your answer next. My personal thing is like I've always thought this is an interesting question because it sort of gets you out of the mindset of, it has to be an American V8 to be reliable. It has to be an American V8 to make a metric ton of power, which isn't the case. V8s the world over are really cool and unique and interesting in their own right. So for me, I would take one of three different cars, one of which I've already owned. One of them is the V8 M3, just because the S65 engine is very unique. It's almost a one-off, and BMW has never ever made another V8 M3. That's just cool. I foresee in the very distant future, the E9X generation M3s becoming the most valuable because of that. Of over all of them, even the E30s, honestly. I'd say in like 50, 60, 70 years time, that's the time frame I'm sort of thinking of here. Just because of it's the only one with a V8. Everyone else has had either a 4-cylinder or a 6-cylinder, going back to the E30. So that's one car I would pick, or one engine I would pick. The other one would be Toyota. What's the one in the LS? I think it's the 2UZ. 2UZ would be one of those. Or no, three UZ.
The 4-liter is the 1UZ. That would be the one you want.
That's the original LS. I'm thinking the second gen LS from like 2005.
Right. So they ran parallel for a while, similar to how the 1J still existed when the 2J was in life.
Right.
So
right.
If you're in the UZ platform, so in the 1UZ, there's two different variations. There's non-VVTi and then there's VVTi. VVTi came out right around the same time as they started using the 4.3 liter, which was the 3UZ. The 1UZ VVTi motor is the one you want because it has thicker cylinder walls. The 3UZ is a great engine. It would make an epic swap for like a Miata because 300 plus horsepower, 350 if you put headers and some other goodies on it and so on, is plenty of power in a Miata.
Right.
But the 1UZ is the one you would want to build because it has thicker cylinder walls, so it's just a more robust engine. The 2UZ is actually starting to become a favorite amongst high-powered drag racers because it is a steel block. It is basically, it's the same. So the 1UZ and the 3UZ are basically the same exact block, just bored out differently. The 2UZ is actually a taller block, similar to how the 2J is taller than a 1J, meaning the block is longer, so you get the extra stroke. Giggity. And because it's a steel block, you don't really have to do much to it shy of 1,000 horsepower. Rotating assembly, better breathing. All of the UZ engines suffer. So they have a really clever design in the engine where it's dual overhead cam, but the cam, they're really close together. And they use a scissor, and it only has one cam gear. So it's not massively wide like, say, a Coyote would be.
Right.
So and what they have is that they have that gear, and then I forget I think it's on the inside cam, and then they have a scissor gear, which is basically a gear that has some ability to spring, and that runs the second cam. So it's very narrow. The downside to this very clever design is that those heads from factory do not flow great, especially in a performance application. But a 2UZ with ported heads, a good intake manifold, boost it, those things are quickly becoming, they're like the junkyard LS of Japan. And
Right.
so, and they're still making that engine today. So you, in the Lexus, what is it, GX 460? Is the 4Runner
Yes.
variant of the Lexus. That is still a 2UZ. That is like a 20-year-old engine that they've just continuously made. So if you see one of those junked in your local junkyard, you could probably have, that's the least desirable of the three, and it's the most power capable right out of the box. So to answer the question you were saying is, no, not the 4.3 liter 3UZ, you'd have the 1UZ, because it's basically the same motor, just stronger.
Right. But
This pedantic rant has been brought to you by Chad's undying research of Japanese engines. Mostly Toyota.
Yes, but like a Japanese V8 like that. So
Yeah.
if I was going to buy a modern one, modern being like 2015 and newer, what's in like the RC? So like the
2UR.
RC F Sport. Yeah, so like that would be like for a modern one. But if I'm really like building one out, I'd probably go with what you're saying, like the 1UZ. So that would be my second engine. And then the third one, I'd probably go with the Audi 4.2 out of the R8, just because it sounds great with the right exhaust. It's a fairly decently reliable engine overall. It's just everything around it sort of failed, because Audi. But that engine is actually really stout. That's the same engine in the R8, but also in the RS4. So that's a great motor. So those are probably the three I do. I'm not a huge fan of Mercedes. Mercedes V8. They're fine. I've just never been an AMG fan, honestly. I've driven a bunch of them, but not. They just don't give me the fizz the same way like the BMW V8 or an Audi V8 or a Japanese V8 would.
Yeah, I mean, those are all exceptionally good answers. So I can just pick the engine, right, for a project. I don't have to pick like the car attached to it.
Yeah, I mean, if you wanted to pick a car that's attached to it, cool. But it's more of just like what V8 is just interesting to you that you would buy the car because the engine is already in it, or you would use it for a swap of some kind.
2UR would be up there. It's basically the Japanese Coyote. They're actually, displacement wise, they're very similar in their power characteristics. They're rev happy, just like a Coyote is. Then I would go into the VH, I think it is, or the VK. Sorry, the VK family of V8s from Nissan is one of the greatest Japanese V8s that you probably don't really give a second thought to.
Interesting.
So they love boost. There is all this, but they're mostly in big SUVs and trucks. I think the early V8K or VHs made their way into like big Infinities, but most of them are in trucks. And top tip, as if the junkyard LS wasn't a big enough indicator, modern engines, meaning like ECUs, in the last 20 years or so, 15, 20 years, truck engines with better heads and better intake manifold make for great car engines because they're tuned for torque.
It's true.
If you make them rev a little bit, if they can, great power potential. So
yeah, very true.
Skid Factory did a VK56 build with ITBs that made like 600 horsepower and revved past 7,500 RPM. I love high revving V8s.
Oh, wow.
The VKs have also found they were in a whole mess of Nissan Motorsport vehicles where a V8 was applied and everything. So they have that motorsport heritage to them. The VH4, again, I forget the acronyms, but the VH41 is effectively two SR20s in V form. More specifically in the head design than the actual piston size and that. But they love boost out of the factory. And you can make it so that they will fit in a hole originally designed for an all-wheel drive RB26, just in case anybody has any ideas of all-wheel drive V8 GTRs. The fourth,
Yes.
I would probably the Audi 4.2 is an engine I really like. I would actually love to play around with an R8 with the V8, but have it make more power than a modern V10, because I think I've said
That'd be
this
cool.
before in chat or on stream. I like the sound of the V8 more than I do the V10, and that's kind of where I would go as far as non-American.
Now, pick a. Well, actually, let's get to chat's answers first, and then I have a follow-up question for you.
Okay. So Andrew, S4 4.2 liter V8, Toyota Chaser. Justin's going with the Toyota V8. Toyota's sneaky good at making good V8s.
Yes.
Let's see here.
The original LS being a legendary and literally the first perfect example of that.
Correct. Those came with an LS. Those were 1UZs, by the way. Those were 4 liters.
1UZ.
The LS 430s later were the 3UZ.
Yeah.
Andrew doubles down on the S4. It looks like a regular sedan, but with a full exhaust, it rips your face off 100%. I've always kind of wanted. I almost got an S4 back in the day, but thankfully I didn't. I got some sense talked into me. Doug, Dodge Magnum, basically a wagon version of today's Challengers and Chargers, because the platform hasn't changed. So,
Yeah.
but
Pretty much.
Doug broke the rules and went American, but hey, whatever. It's not, not a Coyote or an LS. So, Justin with what about a TVR Quebec?
It's Cerbera is what it's pronounced as. It's Cerbera. Or it's Cerbera. It's Cerbera, I believe.
I'm so happy we threw all their tea into the Boston Harbor.
Yeah, Cerbera. It's pronounced. I believe it's pronounced Cerbera.
Yeah, it's. I think that had a BMW V8. I would gladly cede that floor to you guys because I have absolutely no idea. TVRs kind of, sort of. Some of them like what is it? This Sagia, not Stagia, because that's a Nissan wagon.
Yes, you say
Cigaris or Sagaris or something where like.
Oh yeah,
that was pretty
gnarly.
cool. But like most of the time, TVRs were like, "Hi, we didn't stop styling this car," and
yeah,
I never really was a big fan, but I understand their appeal, if that makes any sense. I'm trying to
see what they actually had as engines. I'm on the Wikipedia page. Looks like they got V8s from Rover originally. When Rover was purchased by BMW, Peter Wheeler did not want to risk supply chain problems should the Germans decide to stop manufacturing the engine. In response, he engaged the services of race engineering Al Melling to design a V8 engine that TVR could manufacture in-house and even potentially offer for sale to other car manufacturers. I don't think that ever panned out, but they made a couple of concepts. The result was a Speed 8 with an AJP8 engine, 360 horsepower, top speed of 185. A 4.5 liter version of the engine was later offered with 420 horsepower. I guess they did. They did sort of make their own sort of custom V8 for the platform. Very interesting. I never realized that. But originally sort of a Rover via BMW sort of initialization to then lead to their own V8 production. It's kind of cool. So your pick would be the R8 with a V8 to play around with. If you had to pick a car so that's my follow up. If you have to pick a car with a V8 that's not American,
I mean, would it
be?
It would be that or the ISF.
Okay. ISF is a good shout. What engine's in the ISF?
Same as the RC. It's a 2UR.
It's a 2UR, okay.
there's a host. I mean, there's a host aftermarket for that. Like, it's I. The thing of it is that I would want a manual, so like that would be part of the project. Not to say that the
Mhm.
uh, an ISF versus an R8 is a comparable cost perspective
Right. No.
project, but yeah, an ISF with a manual, try to get as much weight of it uh, out of it as I can. I do like the old RCFs. I specifically liked the one with the carbon package where it had the carbon fiber roof and wing. It's almost as if that
Yeah.
was the inspiration for the carbon fiber roof for the Mustang, which I got, and our supporters got a sneak glimpse at on Facebook. Uh,
Yes. With a reel coming out tomorrow on it. By the way, post that as a reel tomorrow because it's going to be good.
um, already got it scheduled. Steve would like the V8 from a Land Cruiser, but that, depending on which generation you're talking about, that is a UZ or UR family, and that's what I was saying before. Like a one UR, three UR are truck engines, but if you free up the airflow, they will make good power in a road car.
Yeah.
Thanks, Justin. It does. I can confirm in person. It looks very epically awesome. Uh, I can't. I can't wait to get that in because that's gonna make the whole thing pop. I ask this question almost every stream. Greg, when's Carlisle? May, right?
Yeah. Let me get you an exact date, but I believe it's mid-May.
Either way, I'm hoping that it is in time for Carlisle. That and a couple other things in Curb and Febre. Um,
Looks like May 12th. So the weekend of the 12th.
gotcha.
Whenever that is.
So I'm hoping. No guarantees, um, because it is an argument could be made that it is one of the more foolish spends of money that I could possibly do on this car because the performance upgrade isn't really that much. It's pure vanity. I don't care. I want it. It's going on the car. Hopefully by May.
Yeah, you're saving some weight. You're fine.
I I mean, I could take a big crap in the morning and save about as much weight as that roof will save.
That's fine. That's unsprung weight, and you're just lowering your center of gravity. It's fine.
DC over in YouTube says, "Hey Greg, I got a new oil cap gasket in June. The HD Vitin gasket oil cap from IPD. He's speaking Volvo, so I'm assuming you know exactly what he's talking about. It's cheaper
Nope.
and way a lot better looking than the OEM one. Seals the oil better. Awesome.
Nice.
Grim
IPD makes good
Jen
stuff.
over
Keep
on
supporting them.
YouTube says the RCF would be cool. The RCF is a cool little platform. It's just they're heavy, so I would have to figure out how to get a lot of weight
Yeah.
out of them. DC also loves the FV8. DC always wanted an ISF V8 when they first came out. The good news is they're very cheap now, very affordable.
Well, vary is not a. It depends on what your definition of vary is, but considering what they started at, yes.
Yes.
You can find examples with around 100,000, 150,000 miles, which, by the way, is still nothing for that platform. For around between 17 to 25,000, which is quite a good price, and honestly, quite frankly, that engine will never die. So, yeah, that's a good price, and if you can pick one up, because their values I think are going to start going up in the next couple of years.
Justin over on Facebook asks, "So where are we meeting for our cruise in May?" I give you. Greg is our chief organizational officer.
Well, we have Carlisle Import and Performance Nationals, May 12th through the 13th. And if you are part of our supporter group, we will be doing a drive-in movie night at Doug's house because Doug lives on a large farm. He has a projector, and we're going to be able to go watch a movie at his place, which would be very cool. Nice. So only for our supporter group. So we can announce it here, but you don't know where that is unless you're in the supporter group. So you want to join? You want to join up? Definitely be good. That would be great. However, for those that do buy into the supporter group and support us with that, you guys can do that. But surprisingly, middle of Pennsylvania has some really good driving roads, which you'd never think of, because when you go through the middle of Pennsylvania, there's two highways that run through it, 78 and 80, and they're just two lanes of annoyingness for many hundreds of miles. But in between those are some pretty damn good driving roads, because no one really goes on them, and they don't get chewed up a ton like the highways do with all the salt and what have you. So the back roads don't get touched a lot by winter annoyingness like plows and salt and what have you. So the back roads there are very, very cool. And there's a nice, apparently, little drive between Carlisle and Doug's house that we can do. There's also apparently the, what's it called? Aaron posted it last week. It is the Tail of the Dragon of the Northeast. And it's, I think it's like Green Pond Road or Green Hill Road or something like that in Pennsylvania. We can also do that, which is, it's a very, I watched some videos on it. It's a very cool road. It's not crazy long, but you can just keep looping around and doing it all day long. And the turns and the scenery look gorgeous. So it's very, very cool. We can just keep doing that, all day. So that will be probably the meet in May. We'll be going to Carlisle and meeting up and just doing that at Doug's place. So that would be my guess for May. And then we'll do another one in the summer where we can maybe do like a cruise in New York, or maybe do a cruise down to the Jersey Shore, do a beach day, something like that. But something along those lines, I think would be very cool to do. Got lots of time to think about the summer one.
And hey, the time we met Christian von Koenigsegg.
Yes, don't call us liars. We did meet CVK.
And then,
which, by the way, I gotta say, this is from 2014. This was the first year we ever went to the New York Auto Show, which is why I'm wearing a blazer. I don't do that anymore. But they let us in because we had Shifting Lanes, the website. Shifting Lanes, the website. Spaceballs, the flamethrower.
Shifting Lanes, the coloring book.
Basically, as long as you had a website or something that you got paid for, which we did because we put AdSense ads on it, we were able to get press credentials, and we still have them. We can just go as press for the New York Auto Show, which happens like a couple of days before the actual auto show opens. And Koenigsegg was doing a presentation there for, I want to say the Agera, because that was the one that was coming out. It was the one before the Regera. So I think it was the Agera. I think it was the 1-to-1, or right before that.
It was right around that time. We later went for the, I think in successive years, or the following year, the year after was the year he did the no transmission one.
That was the Regera. Yeah.
This was, I think, I forget the name. I forget which one it was, but like, no joke, the first video we ever did that went bonkers was our live stream with Christian von Koenigsegg.
Yeah, we did a live stream, and then Koenigsegg's social media actually shared the live stream, so that's why it went so crazy, which is cool. And the whole point of the story is we were literally standing there as nobodies. It's just, we're three guys that started a website because we're friends and we like cars. And we were getting like no traffic at that point and whatever. And Christian von Koenigsegg stood there and talked to us for like 10, 15 minutes, which I will always remember, because that will make me respect him as a person, not even just as a car manufacturer or a very ingenious individual, which he is. It just, that to talk to someone about cars like that, and then you don't even know who they are at that point, that's just very cool. And he took the time to even just sit there and chat with us. Who the hell were we? About his cars, about cars in general, and about the future of Koenigsegg. So it was very cool. And a lot of these press events, you get these sort of vulture-y journalists that go into these, they have to get the story, and they have these questions that are just very mundane and annoying, and they always try to get like a scoop or a spin or something from these guys, and it has to wear on them for a while. Meanwhile, we did this again with like later in the auto show with like a guy from Rolls Royce who turned out to be like a huge car nut, and those are the kind of people that I love finding at auto shows. Like CVK was one of them because he's a guy that is the leader of one of the biggest hypercar manufacturers on the planet. But he took the time to talk to three nobodies about his brand and cars in general. Like that's cool. And it was more of just talking about cars, not just hey, we want to get the story, we want to get the scoop. We literally just sat there and just like chatted cars, which was very, 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 very awesome. And the same thing with the guy from Rolls Royce. He was one of the lead sales people or lead marketing people there, and he turned out to just be a really big gearhead, which is very cool. And working at Rolls Royce, you think it would be very stuffy, very elitist in a way. And they gave a very posh celebration. There was like champagne handed out, and there was this grandiose thing and what have you. But the guy was basically just chatted with us for like an hour and a half about cars. And how cool the Rolls Royce stuff was, and it was awesome. Like it's really neat to like have that experience.
I genuinely remember two things from that auto show because I think this was all in the first year we went. We're like, this is the coolest thing, ever. But we went,
yes.
And I remember it was right around the time. What was it? The Ghost or whatever the coupe was that they came out with, and like. The whole thing with Rolls Royce is that their cars to be driven in, not to drive. And I was just like, what's the point of a Rolls Royce coupe other than being just an incredibly opulent GT? Like, not even a GT, just a cruiser, because they're stupid heavy. And he goes, oh no, the back seat is enormous. And I remember being like, and then he was like, I don't want to say aggressive about it, but like, promoting his brand in a very, it was still very professional. It was nice. It wasn't like he was being a jerk or nothing. Just really cool.
He's just like, get in.
He's like, get in.
I remember that. And we were like, okay, twist my arm, sit in the Rolls. Why not?
Exactly. And then it was just, and I remember, but the whole thing is that like Hanson and Greg were like geeking out the entire time being at Rolls Royce. And I just remember there being like, this is cool. I don't care how many millions I may or may never make. No. Like, Rolls Royce just isn't my bag. It was a really cool experience because the brand and the panache of the brand and, like, the people taking their time to talk to, again, three nobodies from the internet. And it was a really cool experience, but I also remember being, like, in the middle of it being like... I saw like a really awesome Viper, like 7 booths back. I want to go back there, but I didn't want to be rude. You know what I mean? Because this guy was all being awesome. The second thing from that, I also remember, apart from Christian von Koenigsegg, the dude from Rolls Royce, was I remember meeting the guys from Dyson Racing, like Guy Smith and stuff.
Oh, yes.
And the GT3 Bentley, which I was totally like, that was another one where we were just hanging out, having champagne, talking about a race car. Guy Smith, remember, was talking to us. Chris Dyson was talking to us for longer than he should have, given his time constraints and stuff. But I just remember that, and I just remember being like, man, this is really, really, really cool. And over the years, you kind of go to more and more auto shows, and it became. I miss the days when we went to the auto show to kind of gather information and then posted about it after the fact, as opposed to what auto shows have kind of become for us now, which is opportunities to create a metric fuck ton of content.
Right, exactly.
So on the one hand, that's great that we're at a platform to where like our content at auto shows actually people watch. But I miss our innocent youth, where it was where we were starstruck. I remember the one time where we were at the Mercedes booth and John Hamm walks out and like
that was cool. That was cool.
I remember all these things, and then like over the years, it just became. It was less passion, more work, and I'm not saying the work was bad because let's face it, you get to wander around, look at cars, talk about cars. It's a good gig.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, I miss those days, man. I really do.
Yeah. One of my favorite things was meeting Jordan Taylor. That was cool.
He is an awesome dude. If you don't
He's an
follow him on
awesome
social
dude.
media, follow him because he's hysterical.
Please, yes.
What is his
He's
what is his
great.
alter ego where it's just this big Jeff Gordon fan?
Oh, it's the Jeff Gordon guy. Is it Rusty
Um,
or Dusty.
it might be.
I don't know, something like that. But yeah, really funny. I got to interview him, and all of the footage.
Rodney
corrupted, so
Sandstorm.
Rodney Sandstorm. Thank you. Every time I hear Rodney Sandstorm, all I can hear is Darude Sandstorm.
Yeah. I think that was actually part of it.
Yeah, I know. But actually, I got to interview him, which was very cool. The year after we met him, so we met him in the caddy tent or the caddy booth because they had the caddy race car there. He was obviously for Wayne Taylor Racing, and I got to interview him the year after for Brembo because Brembo had a reception over at Classic Car Club in Manhattan. And one of the guys that was doing the event was like, "Hey, do you want to interview Jordan Taylor?" And I'm like, and he was within earshot. And I'm just like, "No, that guy's a total dick." And he looked over and was like, "Hey, I met you last year. I'm totally kidding." And he laughed and he came over. I was like, "Yeah, it's fine." So I put like the camera down. It was just like a GoPro. So I put the camera down on the table, and I just had a mic like pointing straight up so I could get like both of our audio. And oh man, it's so good with the Pit Vipers make it. They really do.
Classic
So good.
90s look.
It's so awesome. But I remember interviewing him, and he's just a total dude. He's just like a nice guy. Like I feel like a lot of the guys or a lot of the people, I should say, because there's a lot of women getting into motorsport too, which is very cool, and we need more of that. But a lot of the people that I've met through doing this and going to like a New York Auto Show and like interviewing people and just like chatting with people and whatever, they're all like the nicest people. They really are. Like we met Mike Spinelli, who's famous from The Drive, and one of the original creators of Jalopnik. Met him through IMPA, doing the motor press stuff. Like just the nicest dude. Like talking with Jordan Taylor, talking with met people at the NASCAR race. We got to do a quick roundtable with who's the driver from Jersey, Martin Truex. Like they're all just like nice people. Like they're not douchebags. They're not dickheads. They're all just like nice.
They're regular people. Like, and that's like, yeah. I just remember sitting there and like we are literally, Martin Truex is coming down the line, and he's talking to us, and like we made reference to something in Jersey, and he's like, "You guys from Jersey?"
Yeah.
We're like, "Yeah, brother, we're from Jersey."
Yes,
like,
we are.
And then he sat here and talked to us. Like it was just, like
Taylor Ham.
Yeah. I think I might have said that the whole I forget, was it pork roll and Taylor ham or something? I don't even remember, but it's
Taylor ham or pork roll.
And it just it's kind of cool. Like all that stuff was just like, wow, man, like we're doing this stuff, and like that was as guests of Toyota. Like that was just all that stuff was super cool. And I mean, I do miss that, and I would love to get back to doing more stuff like that, especially now that we have like this forum. We have the less formal Shifting Lanes Garage channel that we can throw stuff to where it's less of the who, what, when, where, and why, and more the this is super awesome and let's talk about why it's awesome. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, this is rad. Let's just do it.
That stuff. So I'm hoping, especially in the coming years, I mean, as Shifting Lanes 1 grows, as the Facebook and Instagram pages grow and all this stuff, we have a pretty solid base. Like, obviously in addition, that sort of stuff is really cool because like it opens the door for us to get like sponsors, and that helps us with our builds and everything.
Yeah.
But it also opens doors to do more, like go to a motorsport event and all this other sort of stuff, which they've kind of slowed down ever since, for obvious reasons, with COVID and stuff. But it would be really, really, really cool to get back to doing that sort of stuff because it would make for awesome vlogs. Like it would make road trip and stuff, and like that sort of stuff. So like I'm hopeful, in the next couple years that we can get back to that sort of stuff.
Yeah, I agree. And it's not just more, it's not about like, oh, we get to do these cool things. It's more about we get to do these cool things and bring them to you because what you see is you see a lot of maybe larger creators like a Tavares or a Shmi, and they go to all these events and they get the behind the scenes, and that's cool. Like you get to see a lot of stuff through them. But I feel like for guys like us, it's almost a more interesting way to see it because we're not so immersed in that lifestyle yet that you sort of get to see it through someone's eyes that's very much similar to yours.
Right. It's
So that's why I think we bring a lot of value in that respect is not necessarily that we're like, pie-eyed and, this is incredible, but it's more of just like it would be the experience that you would have. Whereas, if, Freddie or Tim were to walk into Goodwood, everyone would know who they are. Oh, Mr. Tavarish, Mr. Schmeek, please come backstage and do this. Where, as we would walk in, we would need like the press credentials and we wouldn't get every single amenity, but we would try to bring you the most authentic experience as humanly possible without you guys having to be there. So you guys could see it through our eyes and sort of be there with us. That like we want to bring you along for that ride. And that's what makes it really cool for me.
yeah, and I mean, it's here we go again. Lost my
Oh
train of
no!
thought again.
No!
I gotta start writing this crap down.
2 weeks in a row.
I think the thing, like, so we, like you said, I think you touched on it, but we're looking at it from a fan's perspective. So, like, while like, so like some of the coolest stuff, there it is. Some of the coolest stuff I watch is when like, oh my gosh, I watch these guys, and it'd be really cool to meet these guys. But it's even cooler when they get starstruck or something. You know what I mean? And
Right.
like because that's like really really genuine for the most part, and it'd be really cool. So like I said, I'm really hopeful that we can do that, do more type of content like that. I think our Shifting Lanes Travels series where we go to Philly for cheesesteaks and stuff and like that series. I'm hoping that we can
Yeah.
meet like local YouTubers along the way. So that's just an idea that just literally popped into my head. So I'm really, like
No,
I said,
definitely.
I'm really hopeful that we can do more of that stuff because I think it'll make for pretty awesome content. Road tripping in a 700 plus horsepower Mustang, road tripping in a classic 245 Resto Mod wagon, like stuff's kind of cool.
Hell
And
yeah.
I definitely want to do more of that.
Yeah, agree. So before we lose everyone, and now that we've waxed poetic about V8s and cool shit we've done, let's talk about the other thing. And Chad, why don't you tee that up while I go check on the kitties? I will be right back.
Don't have kids. Use protection. All right, guys. So alrighty, guys. So as a lot of you know, and that is, Greg has actually talked about it quite a bit on stream here, and that is synthetic fuel and sort of like the future of internal combustion. Not necessarily the future of cars, but the future of internal combustion. And with the news that Ford is now coming back to Formula One, and Formula One's direction to go towards more carbon neutral, which will include synthetic fuels, Ford is actively looking to save some of the things we love about Ford cars, which there's only one Ford car, it's the Mustang, and can cars like the Mustang and enthusiast cars like that have the engine is almost as big a part of the vehicle as the total package itself. And we've always waxed on about how the death of internal combustion or the V8 and everything like that would be a sad day. Well, it might not actually be coming as soon as we think or at all. Excuse me. And when I say that is that Ford is actually looking into synthetic fuel Porsche has done it. Porsche is going to be running the Cup series, their Porsche GT3 Cup class on synthetic fuel. A few other people are going to be doing synthetic fuels in motorsport. But Ford, where this becomes really, really interesting, is that Ford is actually buying into it. And it might mean that the Mustang and the rest of my lifetime might continue to have a V8 with it, which is awesome because the best part about my Mustang, without question or shadow of a doubt, is the engine and the noise and the way it revs and all this other stuff. And electric vehicles just lose that. They're stupid fast. The tech that's coming for electric cars, whether it be solid state batteries, whether it be sodium ion batteries, whether it be all this other sort of stuff, electrification is very interesting from a technical standpoint, but when you drive it, the thrill is the thrust. And if not accompanying with sound, that's something we're all going to have to adjust to at some point. Or we have synthetic fuels. Now, Porsche has been saying that synthetic fuel right now costs about $45 per gallon, which is a lot. It's not really feasible for the public at that price tag. Maybe as a race fuel, but not like that. But they're bullish on the fact that they can get it down to about $8 a gallon by 2026, which really, in reality, isn't that far away. It's not like gasoline's just going to disappear and we're going to have this 3-year gap of nothing. So $8 becomes a little bit more palatable. Yes, that's roughly about a little less than double the price of premium now. But it's within the realm of possibility. It's not eye-wateringly expensive like, I don't know, $45 per gallon. So the Mark Rushbrook from Ford told Fox News Digital, we are committed to fully electric vehicles. It's an important part of our future. But we also know we're going to have combustion engine vehicles in different parts of the world for a long time. And we want to do that in the most responsible way we can. And that's basically synthetic fuels. And Greg, let me ask you this question.
Yes.
How do they make synthetic fuel?
That I don't know actually, because I haven't looked into the real hard science behind it. I just know that it's derived from the same molecular structure. Other than that, I don't know anything past it. And they can essentially just synthesize the same molecular structure, which then in turn makes it's very similar to pharma in that respect. Like you basically break it down by the molecule and then you know what it does, and then you can then recreate that molecule on a much larger scale and then create the fuel based on a molecular production over and over and over and over. So that's the basic science behind it. I have not dove into that rabbit hole. I want to, because that's the stuff that I really geek out on. So hopefully either next stream or stream after, I'll be able to give a really high science approach to what synthetic fuel production kind of looks like.
Hunter can actually fill in the gaps for you. He says they make it synthetically through synthesis to synthesize the fuel, which is ultimately synthesized into explosions and vroom vroom noises.
That's the best. I don't even need to go into the science of it. That's the best description I think anyone could have ever made. That's great.
Exactly.
In fact, that should be on the Wikipedia page for synthetic fuels.
Yeah, it's a lot better than just basically saying it takes CO2 out of the air and makes it into basically a hydrocarbon effectively.
Right.
But great. The thing for me always with synthetic fuels is nobody's really I know Porsche was diving into it, but nobody else was really out loud working with it, right? I'm assuming everyone who's involved in Formula One is working with it. Mercedes, Honda, Ferrari, some French company that I don't want to name.
Renault.
Yeah, exactly why.
Peugeot.
Not Peugeot's in WEC, Dinkleberry.
But they're French.
Yes, I don't like them. Even though their cars, even though Peugeot's WEC hypercar is really cool, I don't like it. But the thing of it is it's nice to see someone like a Ford, and Ford is one of those manufacturers that sort of moves the needle. It's one thing for Porsche to be doing it as a subsidiary of Volkswagen. It's another when the parent company starts dealing with it. Yeah.
That's the point I was going to make too. Like Porsche is great, huge sports car company,
Make
large
great
enough
SUVs,
to be on the main
sedans.
stage of large enough to be on the main stage of like everyone knows who Porsche is.
Right.
It would be along the same lines as Volvo as far as volume of sales is concerned, right? So a couple 100,000. You're not talking like millions and millions of. But you're right. When someone like Ford now enters the conversation, that's like Toyota entering the conversation. That's like Volkswagen entering the conversation. Volkswagen not so popular in the US. There's a reason why Volkswagen is one of the top three, because globally they are. But it's someone like that entering the conversation. When Ford enters the conversation, everyone's ears sort of perk up and go, oh, okay, this might be a very interesting and viable option. And to your point earlier on $8 a gallon, that actually is quite palatable because in my use case, an electric car as a daily and a V8 sports car utilizing synthetic fuel as a fun, vroomy, boom, boom explosion car, as Hunter so eloquently put it, sounds like a very good two-car garage solution or two-car solution
synchronized
for your garage. You get a daily
there
that can run on electrons, and then something that can, I can use two to 4 days a week for videos and just having fun with. That sounds like a great freaking time and extends the ICE well beyond what it should be, according to current stuff. So I'm very much into that conversation and very much for Ford entering the fray there, because now it sort of gives not that Porsche isn't a major player, but a major volume player.
Well, Ford
in that game.
So I look at it from this standpoint. If you're going to buy a Porsche new, you're fairly affluent, right? So it's not an everyman sort of a thing. Ford,
right,
often associated with being blue collar, but I mean, think of it. I look at it from this perspective. Ford does it, puts it in, say, the Mustang and a couple pickup trucks. Well, Chevy, General Motors, and Ram aren't going to want to be left behind, because I guarantee you the pickup truck segment is going to cling till the death of it to internal combustion in the pickup truck. So if Ford does it, the other two aren't going to be left behind. So guess what happens?
Right.
More people start buying into it. Now all of a sudden, Ford, Chevy, their sports cars have this. Well, okay, if the Corvette can do it, now you have other people entering the fray. You have Toyota thinking about it. Like now, all of a sudden, all of the major players start to play in the synthetic fuel sandbox. And now all of a sudden, that starts the conversation beyond the automotive industry, right? That starts the conversation with like, hey, maybe 2035 isn't the best time to switch to all electric. Maybe we don't have the infrastructure for it, and a lot of Europe doesn't have the infrastructure for it, let alone some of these other countries and stuff like that. Maybe we continue to use the existing network for this boom boom liquid, and maybe we start to push that back. Maybe we sit here and we say, and now all of a sudden, wait a minute, this is actually carbon neutral. The energy required to produce it is significantly less than it is to produce, say, to pull lithium out of the ground, or to mine sea salt and turn it into a sodium that can be used in batteries, or all of this other sort of stuff. And it is effectively recycling, right? If CO2 is being turned into gas, which then gets turned into part of it, it gets turned into, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's where it gets really exciting for me because I know you have been singing synthetic fuel for forever, but nobody other than really Porsche was really playing that song. And it was
Yeah,
definitely not reaching the powers that be from a governmental standpoint. Now that someone like Ford is in, again, their competition
yeah,
cannot be left behind because they'll stop. Like Ford will just explode, not literally, sales wise, and the other companies do not want to be left behind. And
yeah. I
Doug, thank you
agree.
for the stars.
Here's
I'm sure Steve appreciates the new cat.
yes, thank you, Steve, for the stars. Thank you, Doug, for the stars. Doug sending stars to have Steve get a new cat so he won't rip and cut hot farts right in his mouth while he's watching stream. So
Justin, for
I
synthetic
appreciate
boom
that.
boom liquid, a new cat, and Wikipedia info update donation.
Dude, you guys are the absolute best for sending this in because it's hilarious. I love that all the stars you send go towards us making content for you guys, but it also is entertaining to us to see what the hell you say based on all of these donations.
Yeah.
It's so damn funny. You guys are way funnier than we are a lot of the time. But my thing about the synthetic fuels on this topic is I don't think auto manufacturers are the answer here. I think that they are going to start the conversation and pioneer it a little bit. But I think that an outside company really needs to come in and start actually manufacturing this stuff because right now, like we don't have Ford making gasoline, right? It's whatever's in your area, BP, Shell, Chevron, whatever gas is in your area, right? I don't think that the car manufacturers are going to be the ones actually producing this stuff. I think they see an opportunity to maybe pioneer the science behind it and maybe partner with an outside company to actually create it. But I don't think we're going to get to a point where Porsche or Ford, you know, are making stations to sell synthetic fuel to
No,
go in
that
your car.
wasn't. I'm sorry if I was unclear on that. That wasn't
No, no,
really the
no,
point I was making. It was if these guys are
no.
putting it into it, that then the third party, the whether it be big oil, whether it be someone else who sees an
Right.
opportunity
Yeah.
to
No, I
jump
don't
in
think
and
I
run
didn't
with
think
it.
it was I didn't think that was your point at all, but I'm just saying as a continuation of the conversation, like I don't foresee them being the real, you know, bastions of creation outside of the initial sort of scientific development of it, right? So I see like Ford and Porsche sort of doing it and then a BP sort of coming in and saying, okay, let me see your science, let's take it and then let's manufacture it and make it into there. And you know, I'm a very huge proponent of it. I've said it many times on stream that I think synthetic fuel is going to be the continuation of the ICE, and I think it's going to really sort of save the ICE to the fact where I don't think I see us having maybe a 25 to 40% EV saturation globally, maximum. Probably maybe 35 is my guess. Um, I really think hydrogen is going to come into play in the next 50 to 100 years. That's my guess is going to be like the real next sort of horizon for propulsion in that respect. But I think synthetic fuels can take the ICE a lot farther than it could have gone. I'm very much only interested in synthetic fuels if we can make it so that we don't have a lot of emissions. And the reason for that is because of something we talked about in a previous one with the ozone layer. Because what happened in the 80s was we realized that all the aerosols in the air were basically depleting the ozone layer, and scientists and the governments went, "Oh shit, this is a big problem," because you can literally see the ozone layer basically there's a giant freaking hole in it. And we realized it was just ramping up from all of this rampant aerosol use and all of these chemicals that were going into the atmosphere. Like we created the Montreal Protocol in 1987, and ozone depletion kept going, but because of the protocols, things started to get phased out, and now it's back up where by 2065 we will, that's the target date, we will actually have a fully healed ozone layer. So the whole reason all these governments want to go EV is because these emissions are creating a lot of greenhouse gases, and no matter what way you slice it, many billions of cars on the road globally, they do create emissions. As far as the emissions total percentage wise globally, it's pretty small. Most livestock create more emissions than cars, but that's just something that they produce naturally. We can't control the methane that comes out of a cow's mouth. They eat grass, they produce methane. That's what they do, they're cows. But we can control like emissions, right? With coming out of cars. So if we can get synthetic fuels to a place where they create no emissions, I think that is going to be the biggest turning point for synthetic fuels and for ICEs, combating EVs in the future. I would love to see that happen. I don't know if it's scientifically possible. Again, because I really need to do a deeper dive on the science, and I haven't really done that yet. But I would love to get it to a point where synthetic fuels almost make it like a hydrogen engine, where, yes, you have oil and that's a consumable product, but can we get it to a point where the synthetic fuel really doesn't emit any harmful CO2, so that we're continuing with this whole global warming effect, which is happening. And if the science was there for the ozone layer, the science is there for the whole global warming aspect of it right now. So that's part of the reason why everyone wants to go EV, to get rid of emissions. And I don't think ICE is going to die totally ever, but I'm really hoping that this whole synthetic fuel push sort of gets it to that less of an emissions standard than we have now with like a traditional gasoline, which isn't ideal, but I'm not going to stop using it because I really like the boom boom explosion noises and lots of exhaust noises too. So we'll see. I love the whole thought of being able to produce our own fuel without having to mine for dinosaurs, if you will.
No, I mean, all of that is, so obviously the end game here is renewability and emissions, right? If it's sustainable and renewable, something we can produce in-house, and it's not, helping the ozone deteriorate, because we all want to sit here and talk about internal combustion and be like, oh, carbon footprint? Haha, I don't have one. I drive everywhere. But at the end,
I haven't bought any carbon fiber. I have no carbon fiber.
But there's a lot of really great driving roads that would be underwater if we just kept going the way we were going. So if we can do those two things, it is massive. It is huge. We don't need to. We are effectively self-sustaining at that point, and even become more of an, it just, as a nation, it's just massively helpful. And I think things like Doug was saying is the fact that people having the ability to generate their own power, meaning for the electric vehicles, right, is just another thing on top of that. I honestly think for electric cars to be successful, you're going to see that. Now, obviously, in more urban areas, that's not really possible because the square footage per human is so low that solar would be great, but it's maybe going to give you 1% of a charge if everybody else is doing it at the same time. So, but I honestly think once the big manufacturers start playing around with this, and it's like, being in school and they offer you an assignment, but you're like, yeah, but what about we do this instead, right? Or we start doing this in conjunction with this, and you provide a coherent, well thought out, logical response. It helps. And then the byproduct is, like you said, our cars that run on explosive liquids live on, and the V8 doesn't die. My car doesn't become prohibitively expensive to fuel because the fuel becomes so expensive and niche, right? Like, God forbid, regular fossil fuel, gasoline, became as scarce as E85. Well, the closest E85 to me is an hour away in Pennsylvania. Like, you know what I mean?
Is it really?
Yeah. That's why I'm not doing flex fuel or anything like that with the Mustang, is because
So we don't have any E85 in New Jersey? Is that a
we
thing?
do. It's just the closest is over in PA. It's
Jesus.
further down south. So like E85 options
That's
become
ridiculous.
just go to Ignite and buy 55-gallon drums of E90 at that point. But
I mean, at that point,
but the
yes.
thing is and I guess I'll kind of close with this, and we'll kind of move on because we got some people I definitely want to make mention of in chat and stuff. I see this as relatively huge news from the simple fact that a major manufacturer is diving into this with an eye on enthusiasm, i.e., their Mustang drivers, their Raptor drivers, etc. And I think them getting involved would mean that other companies will have to follow suit or get left behind.
Yep.
And once that starts to happen, now someone's like, "Well, hey, Chevy, you don't have to you don't have to produce the stuff. We'll do it, and we'll put it in
Right.
stations. You know, just give us the R&D, man." And I think
Right.
that's so
Or
big
license
for
it
us.
out.
EVs are coming. They're going to eventually get a pretty significant part of the market. It's just the way it's going to be. But now there's like hope at the end of the tunnel that it doesn't have to be all EV. Middle American can get it. High densely populated areas can get it. The grid won't be as stressed as we thought it was going to be. There's just so many benefits from this that cannot be understated that make it awesome. Like I'm crazy excited for it. If they had a GoFundMe, I'd give some money.
Yeah, totally. I 100% agree with that.
Alrighty, chat. You have been some chatty Cathys. Let's just get
I'll be
down.
right back. You go for chat.
I am Chad. Let's see here. Doug's biggest issue with synthetic fuel is Cars 2. I didn't actually see Cars 2, so I'm not really understanding the reference, as it were. Um, Hunter, thank you so much for the stars. 145. He says, don't forget, we need to fund Steve's Netflix series. I must have missed something. But, Hunter, thank you so much for the stars. Let's say it with me, chat. You are a legend. Speaking of legends, we have Jesse Deerhart, who just says 200 stars to say, what's up? Jesse, not much. We're talking cars. We're talking the future of internal combustion. You know, light topics. We had a V12 Supra on earlier. If you want, after the stream is over, go check out the VOD, either here on Facebook or on Shifting Lanes Garage on YouTube. But welcome. Love having you. Let's see here. Doug, we touched on the fact that of energy creation and stuff like that. The benefit, Steve goes, the benefits of fossil fuel though is we'll eventually find Jimmy Hoffa. Yeah, but that's going to be in a million years from now, and that's when he's going to be an explosive liquid. Doug's like, hey, at least you get to leave New Jersey. But yes, that's true. But then I have to enter Pennsylvania, which is a whole new list of annoyances. Specifically, your drivers who insist on driving in my state and don't understand what the left lane is for. Top tip, it's for passing, not for going the speed limit or lower. I don't advocate speeding, folks, but if there's people backing up behind you and you're not actually passing on the left lane, you are a safety hazard. Move over to the right, let the other individuals go by. Just a top tip for all 10 of you. Hunter goes, isn't Porsche heavily involved in synthetic fuel? Yes, they have wind farms now that are actually converting CO2 to gasoline via science. That's like supposedly 100% carbon neutral, even in production and stuff like that. But Porsche is hugely into it. The Porsche Super Cup series is going to be powered by synthetic fuels. So they were the first ones sort of flying the flag. Ford is kind of picking it up. And I hope they take it further, because that's more explosive go juice for the rest of us. And I don't know about you guys, but I definitely want to keep the noise in personal transport, because it's just people sit here and listen to their car idle just because of the sound of it, and I'm very much that guy. One of the things I cannot wait for with the Mustang is to hear that thing start, go through her low load dyno runs, but more specifically, I want to hear her rip on the dyno, get all the noises, the bypass valve, all of that sort of stuff, just ripping the supercharger going, all of that. And then obviously that will be, because what that will all mean is that me driving it is right around the corner. And thankfully that should be very soon. She should be fully put together at some point this week. I'm hoping Tuesday or Wednesday, which means dyno as soon as we can get John Lund on the phone and get him, one of his guys, to tune the vehicle for us. And then it's I've actually learned some interesting things with that I think I will like, for example, the intake. If I take the intake pipe off of the supercharger, it makes 1 to 2 pounds more boost. You guys might have known that. I didn't know that, so that's sort of a cheap. It's actually a free track mode, and that extra couple pounds of boost is what's going to put us over 700 wheels. So that's like, it's cool having like a daily mode and a track mode, and it's literally just a hose clamp. Doug in chat. Speaking of PA drivers, they never like when you point out that the left lane is for passing legally. Riding in the left lane is illegal, but the cops never go after them. I have a funny story about that in a second. I'd say it would immensely cut down on aggressive driving if they did, though, meaning I'd be less aggressive if not for the darn Toyotas and Subis in the left lane. I agree with you. If people I don't care if you don't want to go fast on the highway. I don't care if you want to go 5 miles an hour under the speed limit. I don't care. Just stay to the right-hand side. It is much safer, and people will stop being forced to weave in and out of traffic. Like, how many times have you seen someone go from the left lane to the middle lane to the right lane just to pass like 2 cars? And it could have been all resolved if someone had just pulled over and done the right thing instead of driving with either without their brain or with ego. Because I've seen people just hog the lane just to prove a point. It's infuriating. The second part of that is there's actually a video floating around on Facebook of this same thing, but I've actually witnessed it firsthand, of a PA driver hogging the left lane and a New Jersey State Trooper going up, flashing his lights and riding him all the way back to the right lane, and then the cop turning his lights off and driving off, which there needs to be more of, because I agree with Doug. It would make the roads a safer place. Hunter. Speaking of tuning, real quick, tangent, us Volvo folks are 100% out of tuners, barring IPD or Hilton. Steve-O is gone. Contrast is gone. Big drama around the S60RR now. Nobody in the community is tuning anymore. That sucks. Dang, I didn't know that. I never really dove into Steve. I knew of Steve-O and I knew of Hilton, but my Volvo experience was Elevate, which was okay. They were good for basic mods, and they were priced accordingly. And then I later got a more detailed tune from Shark on the C30, and which was on it when it sold, which the guy who bought it. Actually, I know someone in YouTube asked it a bit ago. I might actually make C30 one last C30 video here. I have to talk to Greg or our business partners about it, but basically the guy who bought the C30 from me gutted it, meaning he took all the go fast parts off of it, front mount piping, intake upper intake pipe. I think he took at least the upper intake manifold off and tried to take off the exhaust, but somehow couldn't figure that out, but got everything else off. I have no idea. The exhaust was pretty simple. It was just a pain with the hangers, but other than that, it's really simple. And then sold the vehicle. He's actually on the C30 page, which is cool. So it went to an enthusiast, not like someone trying to get their kid a safe first car. So that's pretty cool. But yeah, the person who bought it from me has since sold it, which at the end of the day, your money, you do it. I accepted the sale, and then we kind of go from there. Uh, Doug kind of piggybacks on actually, Greg. This is actually a pretty interesting topic. Uh, if you read
Oh, hit
Hunter's
me.
comment about Volvo tuning kind of disappearing, um, and then Doug piggybacked on that with need more education on how to homebrew tune. I'd love to learn. That's one of the things I'm so excited about with the Mustang. It's because it is a bespoke tune. I get to sit there with Jeff, and he's going to basically walk me through what he's looking for or what a tuner would be looking for on data logs. Now, it's going to be a little different because it's not a from scratch tune. Lund, what I'm doing is not unique for Lund to kind of figure out. So they'll get us like 80% of the way there, and then the dyno to get the rest. We're basically just maintaining knock, maintaining correct ignition, little things like that. Fueling because of the new fuel system. Just fine tuning that stuff with like duty cycles. But the thing I'm really excited about is to like look at, okay, here's what this is. So it could mean this, it could mean this, it could mean this, and this is how we fix each one of those potential, not issues, but like rough parts in a tune or something like that. I'm actually really interested in learning that. Just because let's face it, we all like watching dyno videos, but I like the idea of being able to sit here and figure out what's going on. Like that side of things is really, really cool to me. Um, but real quick before we let Greg touch on the lack of tuning, Philip Mills, where's all the Mini Cooper owners? If you own a
I
Mini, have
haven't
driven
seen
a
it.
Mini, or enjoyed a Mini, say hi to Phil. They're some of the most fun cars you can drive. Unfortunately, I have never owned one, but great little platform. Greg,
Yes,
lack
they
of
really are.
tunes, no more. Uh, Basically, you have IPD or Hilton for tuning, but Steve-O's gone. Contrast is gone. Uh, Big drama around the S60RR, which I'm sure you can shed a more light on. Nobody in the community is tuning anymore. Your thoughts as Mr. Volvo 2022?
Mr. Volvo. Oh God, that's a very lofty title you've given me.
I'd say you've done a lot more than
But
a lot of people to grow Volvo awareness and uh,
yeah, I mean, I guess I could say that
fostered a
I've
community.
helped contribute to modern Volvos being cool in a way. Um, uh, Not a lot, but in a way that it's people know about them a little bit more now. But yeah, it's interesting. A lot of the Volvo tuners are kind of going by the wayside. Contrast was a guy named Gustav. He's, I guess, gone. I have heard hide nor hair from him in a while. Steve-O is the guy that tuned my V70R when it got built through Ben up at Rolling Motors in Connecticut. And basically, what you got left is Steve-O, or I'm sorry, Hilton and IPD. IPD being a very well-known company out west. They supply lots of Volvo parts, and Hilton Tuning being a very well-known tuner in the Volvo community, but also does other stuff. They do Audis and Jags and stuff like that too. So it's not just Volvo for Hilton, but they're most well known for Volvo, from what I would say. Um, yeah, it's interesting as Volvo tuner or Volvo as a community is sort of losing sort of that homebrew, if you will. The way that Subaru, you can kind of get a lot of people in the Subaru forums that can open source tune, which is very cool. You cannot do that a lot in the Volvo community. There aren't people that really do it that much. I'm in a private Volvo chat with a couple of people that have been trying to crack a lot of it, but the biggest problem there is that a lot of the software is Hilton's, and when he finds that out, or at least it was derived from Hilton, when he finds that out, there's going to be some pretty big lawsuits, I would imagine. The other side of that is, we as a enthusiast community that is outside of Volvo are constantly getting berated by the government on tuning and stuff. You've already seen it in California. The government's also going to start to crack down on things. They are taking stock Hyundai N's, so the Veloster N, the Elantra N, and in California, and they're saying that you cannot have it in race mode. You have to bring it to the dealer for them to remove race mode. That's just the local government not knowing what the hell they're talking about. But you know, the legislature is against automotive enthusiasm in a lot of ways, and it's interesting to see all of this drama that's surrounding the Volvo community from a tuning perspective, when we should all sort of be binding together, because we're losing out on a lot of that, like, you know, fun cohesion that makes, you know, tuning cars and modding cars part of automotive enthusiasm as a whole. So I don't know. It's very interesting to see. There's drama around a guy S60RR, which is, I guess, another tuner. I think it was, I don't know the person, but I think he was supposed to be tuning for people and then like ran away. I'm not entirely sure, but I can guarantee you that someone will crack the code and start to create homebrew tunes. The one thing I will say is that I will caution against going with those people based on price, because the last thing you want is to have someone homebrew tuning your car and your car explodes. A great example of that is ARD tuning, which obviously is not around anymore in the Volvo community. And they started as a homebrew tune and started to do their own stuff. And they basically just blew up a ton of Volvos because they thought their tune was fine and it wasn't. So quite frankly, I would much rather get an IPD or Hilton tune and just continue logging with them and giving them the data than I would a homebrew tuner just to save a couple $100. It's my car at the end of the day, and I would much rather spend the extra couple $100 to have that peace of mind. So with that being said, it's very interesting to see what's going on in the Volvo community right now with that. But I don't think it's going to end anytime soon, because Volvo's not a huge community for tuning. It just isn't. There's maybe, you know, tens of thousands of people that want Volvo tunes, which sounds like a lot, but it's not compared to the Subaru community or the Honda community, where there's millions of people that need tunes. So it's a very niche market that likely won't have a mass market solution to it. I would love to see another tuner come out of it, but I don't think that you're going to see really anything come out of it anytime soon. And Hunter says, coming out of this, we are getting some resources to homebrew our tunes ourselves for those of us willing to do so. And ARD was garbage. Yes, ARD was garbage. If you want to tune your own car, that's fine, because then it's sort of like in your own hands. And if you learn tuning and do things yourself, cool, that's great. But I wouldn't trust another homebrew tuner in that respect. I would much rather just go to Hilton or IPD and say, hey, here's the deal. And say, hey, there's no real solution for this. Can you help? And if that's the case, then I would, I would maybe go with them, because they're a shop that literally just lives on tuning. And if they can do it and they have a dyno, then they can actually like really sort of dial in your car live on the fly, as opposed to just sending out logs and trying to figure it out remotely, right? So that's what sort of makes me want to go do a build the same way Chad is with the guys at Blue Sky, or go to the place that I've been to dyno a bunch of times, Prime Motoring, and do like a Subaru build with those guys, because you can get like live feeds and live data logging and live knowledge from people that really know what they're talking about and what they're doing. So that really interests me a lot. Like, one of my dream cars right now is, if we make enough money through shifting hands, I'd love to buy a Jaguar F-Type R. And it sounds like a lot of money, but sort of the older ones, like 2015, 16, 17, you can get them for between $40,000 to $55,000, $60,000, depending on what it is. But that's a platform that really doesn't have a ton of tuning to it. You have Velocity or Velocity Access performance or VAP, essentially what it is. They do a lot of tuning for Aston Martin, Jags, and things like that. But they have a setup for the Jag F Type R that now has tunes as well as upgraded internals, smaller pulley, things like that. And but again, it would be like sort of sending it out to a outside source, if you will. Whereas if I were to end up being in the position where I could spend that kind of money, which would be amazing, and in that same ballpark is the C6 Z06 Corvette, which then I could bring to Blue Sky the way Chad is doing with his Mustang and be able to do it live. So it's sort of a give and take, and it's the same thing in the Volvo community. Can you find a shop that really wants to work with you that can, or do you trust Hilton and IPD to sort of send out your tunes and logs and stuff like that to make your car better, or do you want to homebrew yourself? It's just a very interesting scenario, and there's a lot of different options you have in that sense. And Subaru is a great example. You can have tuners like Prime Motoring in Wallington here in New Jersey that are incredibly well respected. You have also Cobb, which gives you the access port, which you can just plug in and like flash a tune right then and there. Or you can do people that do open source tuning from the forums. So it's a very interesting whole scenario out there with all sorts of different tuning. But Volvo is in a position right now where I think tuning is really is starting to kind of die off within the community.
Which sucks.
It does suck.
A couple things. So, one, the Mustang is kind of a just live version of kind of what you've done with like Hilton. It's just that you literally pay for someone to be on the other line, on the other side of the phone for 3 hours while you send data logs back and forth. But Jeff at Blue Sky is, I don't remember all of them, but he's very fluent and he would be able to do the tune himself if he could get access to the Ford software, which he can't. And that kind of piggybacks to Doug's question, which is, why is it so hard to write software for something that is in reality a mechanical carb, or what a mechanical carb is able to accomplish? I mean, sure, fuel injection is more precise, but if you just want to start something that works, it seemed like it wouldn't be hard with added data to improve. But then again, I'm quite ignorant to it. So I can't speak to Volvo, but most of the time, if you're going to have some variation of software that can access a car's ECU, you're gonna run it. You're gonna need basically manufacturer support in a lot of ways, or have someone who's already cracked the code. I'll give you a couple examples of this. The Lexus IS 300. You do anything to that car that isn't really just bolt-ons, tune. You can't tune it because there is no access. People have been trying for those Toyota computers for decades. Because imagine being able to add boost or manage boost or do all this stuff with like even like a Mark IV Supra. Like you can with a Subaru, like you can with a lot of these other cars. You can't even access the computer itself. People have tried, they haven't been able to do it. So the manufacturers are actively trying to keep people out of it for good reason. Because again, if someone's home brewing freaking a hack to get into your car, well, it might work on like this part of the code, but then the tens of millions of lines of code that are in it, again, that one little thing, like how hard is it for video game manufacturers nowadays to release a game that isn't bugged? Imagine if you, even with the best of intentions, you can mess up. That being said, there's other sides of it. So like I said, Jeff just does not have access to Ford's computer. He doesn't really, it's more of a knowledge. I don't want to say knowledge. That's the exact wrong word I wanted to use. It's more like Lund got support from Ford. VMP got support from Ford. So if they're confused about something, they can go to literally the source and get something on it. I mean, we touched on Ford not doing this Ford going this route hardcore. So if you can get into a Ford ECU, you just might not speak Ford. Just like if just because you can tune on a Motec doesn't mean you're going to be immediately able to tune on a Haltech. They're similar, but they speak a slightly different language. How hard would it be to write software for that, Doug? Extremely, because you have to translate into something that a tuner can look at and then adjust the parameters required. It seems like a simple spark plug turn on 2 milliseconds earlier, 2 milliseconds later, whatever. But there's just so much that goes involved into a modern car, and what goes into a modern ECU is ridiculous. And the fact that you don't have access to it in a lot of cases is what makes it tricky. And then, like, in the Volvo side of things, I mean, there's a reason why Hilton wants to go after everyone, right? If you use their software, they worked hard. They probably paid a ton of money to develop that software. They don't want Joe Blow just grabbing it and going and becoming essentially competition. Not essentially, they will become competition. I mean, the lack of someone who can sit here and do a dyno tune on a Volvo is pretty sad. It's really sad because, again, Volvos are not just safe wagons. We all know, right? They're not just safe items for ferrying kids to school, going to work. Just like that. They're actually the older Volvos are enthusiastic cars, and it'd be a shame to almost not have an option to get what you want just because the enthusiasm for it is going away. But like Greg said, it's such a small group that it would almost have to be like someone passing the torch, which is, again, it's a bummer for Volvo. I guess that just means Greg's gonna have to put a Toyota V12 in one of his. Greg, we can't hear you.
Yes, I'm cool with
it. But here's the thing: all is not lost. So, yes, not being able to tune your own ECU sucks. But standalones are getting more affordable by the day. What was a $2,000 ECU Elite 2500 has come down in price. Motecs are coming down in price for the older versions of it. And let's face it, unless you're running a modern engine with modern sensors, you don't need a crazy expensive ECU. I understand that's
right.
$700-800, or sometimes $1,000+ Or if you want a Motec for the Mustang, it's $6,000.
No thanks.
Yes, thanks, because of what it can provide. But I'll get to that in a minute.
Well, yeah.
And then you have to pay for tuning. But then anyone who knows Haltech can tune the car. You know what I mean? You don't have to wait for the next Stevo. You don't have to wait for someone else.
Right.
Having that means you could go to a guy like Jeff. And he might not know Volvo, but he knows a Haltech fuel table. He knows a Haltech ignition table. He knows boost figures. So and then if someone were to just basically give him the limits of the engine, where you want to push as far as ignition, but I mean, a smart tuner knows with this compression, with this boost, knock is inevitable at this ignition timing, or this sort of stuff. So the upshot to spending a little bit more is the fact that if they are a Haltech certified, and I'm just using Haltech because it's all over the joint right now. If it's a Haltech certified tuner, they can tune it. They don't have to be specific to the Volvo community. And Hunter, yes, right. We should 1G swap the world.
Hell yeah.
There's a lot of videos in this one today. Good job, Greg.
Yeah, thanks. That's what I do.
But yeah, it's...
I am content.
I is content.
I is content.
Epic Zoom.
Epic Zoom.
I can't do that.
Yeah, look, if enough people watch our YouTube videos, if enough people watch our reels, and enough people... really resonate with it. I am very much interested in putting a V12 in a Volvo. That would be an amazing thing. The biggest hindrance to that is who's going to do it because we can't.
Not with that attitude.
And well, I mean, well, I can't. I don't have the time. I have two young kids that are, quite frankly, more important than a V12 Volvo. Um,
I mean,
so,
I don't disagree with you.
but like, who could do that around here? Because I'm not shipping another car anywhere after the bullshit that I've been through with the Bluetooth 45. So I'm not interested in really outsourcing it long, many distances away from me. I'm very interested in doing it locally. So like the guys at Blue Sky would be great, but I also know that their time is crunched and they are expensive for good reason because they are the best in the business. But they also don't really know that platform all that well, and they would sort of be figuring it out on the fly. Is there a Toyota specific shop within 150 miles that
There's
does know that?
there was a shop down there. So there, the short answer is yes. I talked to a few of them when I was talking about 1J swapping my IS.
Okay.
The thing of it is that so Blue Sky might not know the platform, but we we were there. We're hopefully doing a video that has nothing to do with any of our cars, but it's just there to showcase the prowess and what Blue Sky can accomplish. There's a Porsche, there's an MG, there's my Mustang, there's a classic Mercury, there's a classic this. Like,
Right.
at the end of the day, metal is metal, not to oversimplify. But getting the engine
Right.
in would be well within their purview. Getting the motor wired, okay, that presents a bit of a challenge. Just again, because because of the engine's unique two ECU layout, would provide a challenge to someone who is to someone even like Blue Sky. But that being said, if you were to go with, say, a Haltech, and I know Haltech has been used to power these things, I've seen multiple builds on it, so I know they kind of know their way around it. A Haltech, a certified Haltech tech, could do the wiring. Now, is that cheap? No. Is anything about this build
Oh no,
cheap?
none of it's cheap.
No. But you have Blue Sky do the mechanicals. You now have someone else come in and do the wiring. And then, again, we don't necessarily have to... We would want to check the motor, do basic things to it, and what have you.
Yeah.
But really, getting it in place, Blue Sky can handle. A company like Haltech can handle the wiring and the tuning specifically. And then, again, Blue Sky is fully capable of doing headers if aftermarket headers don't exist.
They can fab up whatever they want.
Right. So it may not be a Blue Sky, but even like a Prime, like you talked about with the Subarus and stuff, it doesn't have to be any shop that's going to be capable of doing the work and doing the work to a level that you are going to be happy with. It's going to be pretty pricey.
Right.
That said, it's doable locally. I have absolutely no doubt of that in my mind. I also feel that as we grow, we become more attractive to like a Haltech or a reputable ECU company to do things like that, to kind of push the boundaries of what they can do. So maybe if it's not even Haltech, it might be, well, probably not Motec, because even their discounted prices are hurt.
Right.
But, AEM is still a very respected tuning platform out there.
Right.
And stuff. So can it be done? Yes. Can it be done locally? Absolutely. It's just, it's probably going to cost more than the rest of the car combined.
Right. That's the
big thing. The other downside to such a build, which again, I don't have to worry about, not really my problem, is the fact that engine was never offered here. It was never an American
Right.
engine. It never got
Right.
shipped over here.
That's a big
So
issue.
any parts would be off of some third-party site, and they'd likely be coming from Japan, and it would likely take a...
Overnight parts from Japan.
I mean, not a problem, because I'm willing to make that sacrifice for you, just so you have a V12 245. Like,
that would be nice if it actually came to fruition.
you know, it's again with swaps with the right people. Are they simple? No. Do they make them look simple? Yes. So figuring a home for it, not that difficult. The GZs are only about they're about 5K, which okay isn't dirt cheap, but it's not 8, 9, 10K for your 2Js and what have you. So I mean, but at any rate, if five, I mean, let me put it this way: I want to live in a world where that 5K is an expensive engine because I has ideas.
Yeah.
But even so, you're picking up a motor for 5K. Now, again, probably going to want to redress it. You're going to look at the cams, probably do a bunch of healthy stuff. But again, just for me kicking it around, not for nothing. Obviously, it's easy for me to look at Greg's as a content car, not my own personal vehicle. But if I'm looking at it from that perspective, put it in bone stock. Something breaks, we fix it. As long as the rotating assembly doesn't break and the bore doesn't oval, we'll be all right. And like I said, I mean, I think that's a really good thing to work towards for 2024, to be honest with you. 25, maybe 25, but, you know.
Yeah.
Real quick, while we're on the topic of that, now, I tried to get this earlier in the stream when we were embarrassing Greg. And I wanted to do something for balance. And then I found the picture of us and Christian von Koenigsegg. And that led us down a tangent. Then we went down another topic. Then we got down this. Then we went down that. In the interest, so College Greg, I think it's only fair. I'm not really in love with this idea, but I don't want to feel like I always pick on Greg just because I have control of the stream. In the interest of balance, I present to you College Chad.
Oh my god! Oh, I forgot that picture existed.
That's actually at Penn State at Keith's apartment when we were like sophomores in college or something like that.
I was gonna say. So this is actually a joke picture because you did not pop your collar like that literally ever.
No, but it was.
But
we went
for pre-gaming purposes. You did that night.
Yeah. I mean, it was. Let me put it this way: I don't usually, but I don't have many not college pictures or pictures from that era. But yeah, I'm kind of that guy. I guess I'm sure. Same thing, right? Best meme for Greg's photo earlier in the stream. You definitely want to go and find that. And best meme for this, we'll give you guys a prize. We'll give you like a $10 gift card to like your coffee shop of choice. That as long as they sell online gift cards. Yep, the two.
Or we'll just PayPal you $10 at that point.
That was circa. That had to be 04.
05 or 06.
Well, sophomore year would have been. Would have been
04.
Yeah, about 04.
No.
I think this was when we all came.
Yeah.
Oh no, maybe it was junior year. At any rate, that was mid baseball career. High up. I mean, let's face it. If there was ever a picture of me that was a quote unquote Chad picture, that's it.
That's the most Giga Chad you will be.
I am a walking, talking embodiment of Giga Chad minus the six pack.
Oh man, yes, Steve, we are very much older than you. I graduated college in 06, so yes.
I mean, if you're counting associate's degrees, I graduated a little earlier than that, but
yes, we graduated high school in 02.
So over 20 years ago, which is awesome.
Yeah, we just had our 20-year reunion last year, and I'm like, oh yeah, I'll go to that.
Nope.
And then as it got closer, I'm just like, I'm
Nope.
not going to that.
And Hunter's over here like, uh, I graduated high school in 2015.
Yeah. Well, funny enough, on that note, yeah, Hunter, yeah, you're basically a fetus. There's a kid that actually reached out to me. His name is Colin, and he seems like a nice kid. He has an '01 P2 S60 that I think his family handed down to him, or he got it from his family or something. I need to go back and look at the conversation, but he reached out. Excuse me. And he was like, yeah, I found your videos, and just wanted to say thank you for making the videos, blah blah blah. And I looked at his profile, and it says WMC 2023. Now the WMC are the same initials that was our high school, yep. And I'm like, does WMC mean this high school? And he goes, oh yeah, I go there. And I'm like, oh God, you're like 17, maybe 16.
Oh my gosh.
I could be your dad. But where do you live? Turns out the kid actually grew up he lives in my neighborhood, my old neighborhood, over by my parents. I was just like, dude, my parents are still on this road. I visit them all the time, and yeah, I literally am in your neighborhood almost, every other month. So that's so funny. But there's a couple like really good meets around here that I'm actually gonna invite him to, because I want to roll up with a couple of good Volvo crew people. But yeah, it was really funny. I was just like, oh my God, you're a fetus, Jesus Christ. And I'm like, oh wow, you ended up growing up where I grew up, just less than half the age that I am. Like this is so crazy.
Holy crap!
I know.
I mean,
car community is cool like that. Like you can get enthusiasts that are like 50 talking to 16-year-olds at meets. Like they're just friends.
Yeah, that's super cool.
What I really love about the car community is like age in dating. Oh, age is just a number. Like in the car community, like age really is just a number. If you have that common
absolutely
enthusiasm for that thing, cars especially, 70-year-olds can talk to an 18-year-old the same way as a 38-year-old will talk to a 40-year-old. Yeah, as long as you have that passion, it shines through for sure.
Oh, without a doubt. Hunter's just here for you to spew your useless Volvo knowledge and to support us geezers. Thank you. We need it. My knee's been hurting lately.
Yes, my back, knee, ankle, Achilles, they all hurt now.
Yeah. Doug has a comment for you that I have no idea about. But since you brought up our old high school,
yes.
What did you know that the fullback for the Chiefs was a West Morris graduate?
Really?
Michael Burton. I mean, he's a special teams guy because
cool.
The Chiefs feature a fullback like, I don't know, once a fucking presidential term. But
they had Jerick McKinnon as their fullback.
Yeah, like
but that counter play where he went for like 20
I
mean,
he got in for one.
He's not a fullback.
He got in for one play, but he's mostly a special teams guy. But like, until this year, he had all of the West Morris football records. They were broke by this other this kid's but he the most successful football player in our high school history just won a Super Bowl, which I thought was pretty cool.
That's pretty awesome. We got a Super Bowl winner at our high school.
Finally, it's about goddamn time.
I was going to say, it's only taken like 75, 80 years.
57.
Wait, really? When did West Morris come into existence?
Well, it doesn't matter when West Morris came into existence. It matters when the first Super Bowl
right, NFL. Right.
So.
But didn't they have championships before the Super Bowl?
Right. I mean, again, I'm being overly specific. But like you said, it took us X amount of years to get a Super Bowl.
Super Bowl, yes. yes. The
Details
yes,
matter,
the
kids.
pedanticness. Yes.
Hunter, I'm looking in your direction. But yeah, a friend lives close to a friend of yours, circa Doug.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So went to college with this girl, Christy. Super cool chick, very into cars. Apparently, Doug and I both know her. But his dad grew up on the road adjacent to the road our friend Christy used to live on. It's so random. It's all. It's a very small world. We all have these little connections. It's very cool.
Yes.
Car community brings us all together.
United by Boom Boom Liquid.
Yes. United
Oh,
by Boom Boom Go Go.
I think this is a great way to end tonight's stream since it's actually one of our longer ones.
Yeah, it is. We've been off for a long time.
So, good news, Chad. I am actually now in the process of working with a graphic designer. First thing on the docket, new Shifting Lanes Garage logo. Stay tuned for that.
The circle logo. The font's staying the same, but the avatar is changing.
It's different than if you look to the bottom left-hand side of your screen. It's going to have a different feel to it. It's going to look very familiar.
Yeah.
But it's going to have a different look and a different feel to it, which I'm really excited about. From there, we are going to finally start working on the Exploding Dinosaur shirt, the Emotional Support Snail shirt,
Then hats.
and then, I honestly think Greg and I are now going to talk about stuff you have no idea about. But at any rate, I think our Circle logo is going to look great on hats. I think that's going to pop.
Yeah, for
big
sure.
time.
Yeah.
So, so in the next 2 to 3 months, I'm going hard in the paint on merch. So, I know we've been talking about this for a while. I am actually in the process of doing the actual design work. So we will have a lot of really good stuff for you guys coming soon.
Yeah.
And we definitely, we're going to give our supporters first crack at it. Just because,
At cost, by the way. We're not making profit off you if you're supporting.
Absolutely, you guys are going to get the deal of a lifetime. Steve says you could do a Ken Block tribute shirt or something like that. I have kicked around that idea. I've decided that I'm going to tribute him with a Mustang. The hats and stuff. I mean.
Yes, Hunter. Yes, 100% accurate.
Greg, flip your hat around.
Gladly.
Notice the snapback. Greg, what size is your head in a fitted hat?
Oh, not as large as yours.
Exactly. Because if I wear like a snapback or like a what's it called? Like almost like the belt back hats.
Yep. Chad's trying to find a hat now.
Headphones, easy to use. The gap of the amount of forehead you can see is insane. So any hat,
I can't see.
And if
due to the glare of your enormous forehead.
So if I wear the hat forwards, as you might think, but then I get shadow, right? I don't have full shadow like Greg or something has. So
shadow's fine.
So I want fitted hats because it's just goofy as hell.
Oh man!
So
we can get you. We can make you a fitted hat. Like the company that does this stuff makes fitteds too. So it's not like we can't get you one.
Yes, in 7 7/8, please.
Yeah, they make up to 8.5.
But that's the thing. Like I really want to get that's why I'm like so stoked for the garage logo because it's going to look great as a patch on a hat. And I can't wait to start wearing that specific hat. So yes, and then I'll throw. You wouldn't know it, but I was on staff with Callaway more recently than Titleist.
There you go.
It's just Callaway doesn't make a hat that looks. Yes, I agree. We've been asking them. They say we're beyond help.
I have a contact that's a very good um, uh, person with Keeps, so I'm hoping to get him on as a sponsor this year, which would be awesome.
Fantastic. I love
But
Cam.
yes, yeah. So to give you guys a sneak peek of what that sponsor ad would be like, it's like, guys, are you into cars? Do you have hair? Well, I don't anymore. Don't be like me. Use Keeps. Really, it's like because it's easy to do for bald stuff because everyone that does the Keep stuff is usually like has hair, but obviously it's just like you should use Keeps or you'll end up looking like this. You can use Chad or Hanson's glorious flowing mane
I mean,
as the usual as what you would
honestly,
get.
the pitch would be myself, who is thinning, um, and it's like with Keeps, and it's like this is what would happen if I used Keeps, Hanson.
I was gonna say
This is what happens if I
I'm the
don't.
before
Greg.
shot. You're the after shot.
You know, yeah. Hopefully that works out, because I still have a lot brakes,
Yeah.
coilovers, body swap, new wheels, because the brake swap
Yeah.
won't fit under the wheels I have now.
Yep. Full new car. Yep.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
And at that point, it'd be like, wait a minute, GT500s are how much?
Yeah.
How much would it be to manual swap one? All right, I say.
Yeah, that was gonna say, but you'll have a manual GT 500 at that point.
I mean, at that point, I'll have probably. It's going to be less, but like, yeah, there's always something new. Like when you left Blue Sky the other day, Jeff and I were talking, and now I want cams.
Yeah, well, there you go.
So we'll see. Like I
He's
said,
also a good salesman.
I mean, it's not like it's hard. I'm sitting here, and he knows I want 700 wheel, like badly.
Later, Steve.
And he knows I don't want to run like Boustain in the car constantly. So we were talking about it, and cams would be a good. They're about, I think about that would easily get me over 700 wheel if I don't hit it. If I'm not close to it, let me rephrase that. If I don't hit it, and even if I do hit it at the dyno, using cams would be better for me. They would make power without risking knock, as opposed to adding more boost, which would increase the risk of knock. So,
Yeah.
just a glimpse at a guy with a horrible carcane addiction. But
I think that's a good place to leave it.
yes, it is, guys. Thank you to the 7 of you who stuck it out for the duration. Thank you to we did have some people. I think someone's still over there. Evan over on YouTube.
Yep.
Evan, before we sign off, man, yeah, Volvos are sneaky awesome, man. You're gonna find that the community is awesome, and if you ever need anything, if you scroll up in the Facebook chat, you'll see my IG handle. Actually, I'll just put it in here again. Who am I kidding? I can type. And if you ever need anything, man, hit me up. I'm here to help, man. But to everyone else who is watching, thank you so much for being here. That has been Greg. I'm Chad. And we will catch you guys next week at the normal 8-ish Eastern Standard Time on Monday.